Hello, everyone. So tonight I am in the company of Paule and Geneviève from Rives Company. Hi, ladies.
Hey.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you so much for agreeing to be here tonight. I'm very pleased to be speaking with you and for taking a few minutes in your busy launching of your new company. I hope everything is going fine for the company. Maybe you want to explain a little bit of what it is, Rive Company. It's a sewing craft knitting hybrid. Maybe Paul, you want to start and explain a little what it is.
I think you could summarize saying it's like your one-stop handmade wardrobe address. We offer fabrics and yarns and notions and haberdashery, everything you need really to maybe consciously sew or knit pieces for your wardrobe. And we also offer workshops if you need a little bit of accompanying, a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance, or maybe just if you want to fine tune your techniques and maybe some finishings. Would you say that's about right, Geneviève?
Yes, I would.
What sparked the idea for you to begin this company together, and what guided you to decide the shape it has now for you?
Of course, the shape it has now is mainly influenced by the pandemic. Rive is an idea that started in a conversation between me and Paul a couple of years ago. It wasn't called Rive; it was just a little seed of idea, a little spark. And then the pandemic happened, and Paul called me saying, I want to do this now. I need a project. I need something to keep me motivated. I need something to work on. So we made a lot of work for ourselves by
Yes.
and I was at home with my son at this point and coming out of maternity leave, so it was perfect. And because of the pandemic, we could only launch online, so that's how it became an online shop because of the circumstances, and everything is. So we planned everything so you could sew with us at home. So we filmed a workshop that maybe we would have done live otherwise, but we decided, okay, let's film one. It was really hard to film, but we're so pleased with it because we can just be at home and learn to sew with us.
Yeah, and also I think maybe since it's a pre-recorded video, maybe people who are more beginners can watch it again and come back and do it at their own pace, you know. So yeah, I think that's nice for someone who begins in the sewing adventure. And do you sorry, Paul.
I just wanted to say also that as we were filming it and doing it, like I think sometime in the process we were comparing ourselves with maybe some other like workshop that are available, like craftsy.com or things like this, and like we kept coming back to the fact that it's not the same. It's much more personal, and it's like you're in the actual sewing room with Geneviève who's teaching you. It's very personal. Like it's natural light, it's nice pleasant music, it's cozy, and it's no artificial lighting. I think we're really proud of offering something different that really feels more personal and just more natural. So it's a good thing that it motivated us to have a workshop like this that's online, because I think it's a good resource. Like you were saying, you can pause, you can watch some sections again and again.
Yeah, that's
a good offer.
Yeah, and do your class and your workshops and everything you have to offer, is it more for beginners or advanced beginners or advanced? Who is it for?
We really thought about beginners when filming it, but then we included so many techniques that I think an advanced beginner would really find interesting tips. We did a lot of hand sewing finishes. that when we were doing them, Paul was telling me like maybe that's a bit much for a beginner. Like I think as a beginner, I wouldn't do all of these, but I thought, you know what, some people might find it really interesting. It's much more couture techniques that I learned along the way. So just passing them on to maybe advanced beginners watching, or beginners who just want to spend some time hand sewing their garments, hand sewing their finishes. We're not hand sewing this yellow, but
The whole way.
But it's fun to really sometimes you've been sewing and maybe you keep having some finished projects that are not exactly the way you were seeing it, or maybe you're disappointed, and sometimes it's just those little details, those little things that you should be paying attention to that you just don't know. And it's in those little details that if you just take the right time at the right moment, your garment is perfect. And I think there's a lot of little helpful tips that maybe for someone who was already sewing, it's nice to just make sure you're doing it properly, and then you bring this new knowledge with every other sewing project afterward.
That's it. And I for one am really beginner in sewing, but I know that when for example, I tried to put a zipper on pants last week, and then I went on YouTube and searched zipper on pants, and it was like a crazy amount of different techniques, different ideas or ways to do it. And as a beginner, I didn't know at all which one to choose. But I figured that when you already know how to sew, and then you can just keep on learning new techniques. So I'm sure that when you show in your videos new things, even someone who sews since a few years, they can still learn new things.
And I would say also, like, I hope those who found the workshop really interesting will like evolve with us, and we will cover all these techniques in time. And sometimes when you learn, you find a teacher that you like. I hope I'm a teacher some people will like, and when they explain things, first of all, it's selected techniques. Like, it's not every way of putting a zip in, for example. It's like the try way of doing it. And sometimes having the explanation be always in the same form or the same logic, it can help some people. So it will become a stop for people. Like, oh, I need to learn this. Let me go check if he has a video on it, or oh, they have a workshop on it. How wonderful!
Yeah. And I'm curious, how did you girls start to sew or to learn to sew? Paule.
For me, there was always a sewing machine in my house, or at my grandmother's house, even if my mom or my grandma didn't have like a regular practice of sewing in their lives when I was a kid. It was there if we wanted to hem a pant or sew a little shoe bag or tablecloths. Like if we had little projects as kids, it was available to us. And I was sort of playing with it sometimes. And in the high school, when we had those like family economy classes, well, like family management classes, we had some beginner sewing notions then, and I was really into it. Like I remember I started sewing a couple of garments from scratch with no patterns. It was a way to be creative for me. And then later in my adult years, I started maybe knitting more seriously and started sewing a little couple of projects when I had kids, when I had more times during my years of maternity leave. And I started sewing some garments with some indie patterns. And more recently, when I met Geneviève through my yarn company Urso, she was a client and we had met at a couple events. I noticed how good she was at sewing and how much knowledge she had, and she was willing to give some private classes then. And it was a big pivotal moment for me to actually get to do things properly and more seriously. It was really
when you really take the time to give yourself some knowledge and some tools, it's like a jump.
It's a big it's a jump in your learning curve. Like it's
that's it. And what about you, Geneviève?
So same as Paul, I think there has always been a sewing machine at my home growing up. My mom used to make these very elaborate Halloween costumes, like they're really, really great. And she would sew cushions and curtains, like really practical sewing. And I think at some point she must have shown me how to use the machine, because in my head I've always known how to basically use a sewing machine. But I didn't start, I would never have dreamt of sewing garments. Like in my head, it was so big a step, like sewing wearable garments. I thought I could like craft something that would be okay, but really sewing my wardrobe, that was not possible. And then life brought me to be living in Paris for a time. And I was auditioning as a musician, and there would be these really huge gaps of time between auditions, and I needed something to occupy my hands to do something. And I found sewing, because in Paris, sewing was really big for young people. So there were these shops that we don't really have here until now. There were these shops that were targeted to young people, like that would have curated selections of fabric, of garment fabric, like really great designer fabrics that would have indie patterns, indie sewing patterns. And these indie sewing patterns are nothing like your Burda or McCall's pattern. They're really great for explaining the steps and everything. It's a class in itself. So I started sewing garments when I was in Paris, and there were all these sewing blogs, like a lot of resources come from France. They were really active. People of my age, it's like, oh, that's really cool. They're really sewing their wardrobe, like designing their pieces they're wearing. I thought it was really great, and I started down that rabbit hole.
Yeah. And how, I'm just thinking about it now, but how can we maybe explain why this didn't exist here in Quebec, or maybe why is it such a big thing in France? I know they have like such a history of garment and couture and everything, but I don't know why is.
I feel like there's a culture of it in the United States more.
Yeah.
And it's funny how sometimes we feel like we're sort of in between. Like, you know, there's definitely a culture of it in France, and
in England, it's really big. In London, there are so many indie pattern companies in London.
Yeah, maybe we just kind of didn't belong in any of the other.
Maybe
I don't know.
Just a time delay. Like it's
we just have a bit of catching up to do, maybe, but I think it's exciting.
Yeah, that's it. So really, I really find that you are right on the spot, right where we need you right now.
Like, we really felt like it was a dream resource that we didn't have, you know, as sewer, as knitters on the South Shore of Montreal. Like, we really felt like there was a gap that needed to be filled, and it was sort of our dream job. So why not?
I love how you first had an idea and then it became something real. That's my favorite part. It happened.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's nice. So when if people go on your social media or on your website right now, they can have fabric, everything from the I don't know, it's not mercery.
Haberdashery.
How?
Haberdashery.
Haberdashery, okay. Haberdashery, and can they buy the pattern, the class, or everything separated, or everything together?
It's sort of buildable. For now, the only workshop the first workshop we worked on is the cielo. It's a quite simple but still interesting top or dress pattern, and we have the paper pattern. We have a fabric kit. We have the workshop. It's all stackable. Like, you can get any of these separately or all of them together, or whichever one you need. We're definitely looking into growing our library of workshops and evolving with our clientele with more workshops in the future. but definitely curated fabric, curated yarns, notions.
Yeah, and I'm sure you have a list long like this of projects that are just waiting to be made and filmed. But the filming must be very, very long, and I'm sure it takes a while, but it's I'm sure it's very nice.
The filming, it was really extensive. Like, we are so enthusiastic. We want to make everything into a class to teach everything, but we have to be conscious that it takes to do it like we want to do it. It's really long process.
Yeah.
And we filmed it both in French and in English because we really want to be bilingual from the start. We want to be accessible to as many people who want to join us as possible. So to do it twice, like the workshop is 2 hours long, and we did it twice, and it was our first workshop, so there were so many takes and cuts before we found our process, I would say. So we just need to be conscious that we won't be able to make classes every month, let's say. It needs to be more spread out than this, but we will be how would I say it? Like, the next project is really clear in our head what it's going to be, and it's going to be something that is a next step from this yellow. So I hope people will evolve with us, and it's going to be a really interesting tool, something to add to your wardrobe. I think we made it.
Yeah, and that's nice because
I think aiming at maybe one workshop per season is more something that's realistic for us right now. And exactly, like, even if we have so many patterns that we love and so many ideas of things we would love to sew, I think we need to choose well. Like, if we want people to really need those workshops, they need to be very different and bring new tools.
That's it, yeah. And I think it goes a little also with your philosophy of your company. You know, when you really need to think about what you want to make and maybe have a little bit of purpose in what you make and bring on your sewing table.
Yeah, I think that's really a big target for us, that it's not just buy all those things and never do anything with it. Like, we really want people to feel empowered to actually make with the things they love to buy. Like, it's not just buying some nice material, it's actually making something that makes you really proud and you really get to use, and that really brings joy to you in the way you dress, or something to gift, or say.
Well, I can't wait to see what you go with this very, very nice project, and we will put all the links for your social media and your website on the publication, so people can find you very easily. And I hope we can meet each other in person very soon. This summer, maybe.
Yes, maybe.
Yeah. Thank you very much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.